especially now we're live. Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
I like that. Hand pink waving, hand pink waving, hand pink waving. Thank you, Lisa. We're all discombobulated trying to look at freaking fares to get over to Ireland for the trip. Oh, it's less than 3 months. We need to really get serious about it.
I know, right? All right.
And our not going to say New Orleans, our New England Salem trip has just been launched on Mysterious Adventures, and we've already got people booking. Like, wow, I wasn't sure how it's going to go because it's so insanely good but so insane expensive that time of the year. But what they've put together...
Outrageous.
Oh,
outrageous.
So good.
Outrageous.
So good, so good, so good.
Do you want to mention one of the places we're going to?
I don't think we're allowed to mention special places yet.
It's on the list.
Is it?
I think so.
Well, if it's on the list...
You're going to have to...
Well, hang on. I'll have to get up the Mysterious Adventures and have a quick look, which I can't get to now. But you can show people what we've just got.
Okay. I can't see anything.
Well, you don't need to because they're all still there.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
so,
sorry, keep going.
We've got some Christmas cards. Yay! We've got some Christmas cards. So I'm going to show you the Christmas cards that we received. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay!
Once I caught a fish alive.
So, Cameron Barry, this is from you, all the way from Hobart. Oh, look. That's Hogwarts. You got that at Hogwarts. Oh. And it says, Dear Anne and Renata, Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year 2024. Hi, Auntie Zell. Jeez.
I'm trying, Auntie Zell. I'm trying to clean up.
If you haven't been here when Auntie Zell makes herself known.
Well, hello, Mr. Keller. How are you?
Hello, Patrick. That's how Auntie Zell tells us she's here. Speaking of which, we're going to be visiting Mr. Keller just before this amazing tour.
Are you ready to see our...
Yes.
I will see if I can share the screen. And then we're going to be telling real ghost stories. I think I'm on the wrong one. The real ghost stories of Reddit. Real ghost stories of Reddit. How can we possibly go wrong with real ghost stories of Reddit? Oh, there it is there. I did have the wrong page, so I'm just getting that up, and then I'm going to share this. This is part of our challenge to go live on YouTube right up until Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. So we're not going live on Christmas Day. We're going to spend that with our family. But here we go. Here is the New England Halloween tour, The Witches, Vampires and Phantoms featuring Salem. And here is the itinerary.
So we will start our adventure by embarking on an unforgettable journey through the shadowy heart of Providence, Rhode Island. So our first stop is Rhode Island, where we're going to have a celebration dinner. And then we're going to have a haunted ghost walk. Yay. Then,
look at that.
We go deeper into the legends of Rhode Island with history and mansions that are ready for us to wander through, and Chestnut Hill Cemetery. So if any of you know any of these places, we're going to have to do podcasts about all these places.
Absolutely will.
Then it's Bell Courthouse.
We've got the story of Mercy Brown.
Oh, yes, Mercy Brown. Love Mercy Brown. And Bell Courthouse of Newport, a mansion steeped in mystery and adorned with eerie architectural oddities. Ooh, very nice.
Then we've got unsolved murders that occurred in Massachusetts, into the rooms where they actually happened. Mm-hmm. We'll hear all about it.
Mm-hmm. And then we're going for a deeper trip into Rhode Island history with Old Sturbridge Village, which is a living history museum, and Harrisville Cemetery. So that is another beautiful cemetery. And Bathsheba Sherman, the poor darling, we're going to lay flowers on her grave.
All right. Then we're off to the Bridgewater Triangle. So we'll have to do something about that and read all about that. We've got
we're
King
going
Philip's
into
Cage.
the wicked bowels.
Oh,
Wicked bowels.
my husband had wicked bowels earlier. They stunk real bad.
Nothing like a wicked bowel. And Lake Nipponicket.
I'm glad you said it.
Okay.
We've got the standing monolith as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we end up in
Salem. And there is a fabulous
Now,
night.
I'm not sure if we're allowed to say what that is yet.
Okay. Right.
But we are doing something very special on the Halloween night. That photo may have something to do with it. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll be at the Gallows Hill Park, the Proctor Ledge Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we got? I think they've given us 5 hours to wander through Salem and go shopping.
Oh, God, how can we fit that in? Oh, my God, we'll be running. But we get into Rope's Mansion and the Witch House, the former residence of Judge Jonathan Corwin, and we've told stories about this.
Isn't that the House of Seven Gables?
Yes.
We've done a podcast on it.
Yes, the Witch Dungeon Museum, can't wait to see that, and ghost tour through Salem's historic streets. Yes. No, we're going.
Oh, it's so boring. She's falling asleep.
We're going towards the Joshua Ward House, Charter Street Cemetery, Salem Witch Village.
Oh, there's the House of Seven Gables.
And the Howard Street Cemetery. Oh, so many cemeteries. Oh, my God. And then we're going to the original Salem known as Danvers with the Rebecca Nurse Homestead, an icon of the Salem witch trials. Walk in Rebecca's footsteps and feel the intensity of her accusations. Hear the tales of her innocent life that met tragic fates. Wow. Look at that place. Isn't that fabulous?
They call it Gloucester, I think, or Gloucester. We call it Gloucester.
Yeah. Hammond Castle Museum. And Dogtown Village.
An abandoned settlement cloaked in legend and folklore. Cool.
Ooh.
Now, there is actually a couple of things that haven't gone on there onto the itinerary yet because she wants to get it signed in blood before she releases it.
Right.
But let me tell you, it's good.
Oh, it is so good.
Joanne's booked. Barb's booked. I think Amanda's booked. There's lots of people that are booked.
Yeah.
So that is our. If you want to check it out, it's on the Mysterious Adventures. You can have a look over there, and
We'll put a link up.
Right. Oh, I'll see you, Daisy. Now, tonight, part of our journey, our challenge, is we are going to read real ghost stories from Reddit. Of course, they're all absolutely true. I have to admit, I was running a little late, so I've just found some stories. I've cut and pasted them, and I haven't read through them. So we're going to just have a little bit of fun seeing what these are going to be like.
But can I tell you the rest of these? So
oh, yeah.
We have, I'm sorry, it's always happened to
there you go, mate. There you go.
I think it's Zelda.
Here in this room.
Lisa, beautiful Lisa Coote. This one is to Anne and Renata, and it is a koala on a Christmas tree. Look at that.
I'm going to hang on to all these envelopes.
Yes. What did the hurricane say to the coconut tree?
I don't know, Renata. What did the hurricane say to the coconut tree?
Hold on to your nuts. This ain't no ordinary blowjob.
Right. Thank you. I like it.
And why does Santa Claus have a big sack?
Why does Santa Claus have a big sack, Renata?
Because he comes only once a year.
Ooh.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, I've got one from Johan. Oh, thank you, Johan. And it's actually, this one is to me personally. Well, you see, get that out of your system, will you?
Sorry.
All right, I'm trying to get this. I'm having a few issues. Auntie Anne, it says, season's greetings. Oh, I'll get some light on it. There we go.
Oh, cute.
Dear Auntie Anne, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from Johan. Thank you so much. We're going to go on our lot. We'll have to put a photo up of we haven't got it set up yet.
Well, you open that one because this one's to me and this
right.
one's from Johan as well. So we got separate, can I say? Separate.
Individual.
Oh, that's so special, honestly. Thank you, Johan. I can't stick my finger in the hole.
I know, there's licked and sucked down tightly.
Oh, and I got a pretty one too. Oh, look. And that also says to Auntie Renata, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from Johan. Thank you so much. Thank you. They're beautiful.
And this one, Merry Christmas as well. And this one is from Beck and Bianca. Hello, Auntie Anne and Auntie Renata. Thanks for the laughs. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Much love, light and blessings from Beck and Bianca.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to have to start writing some of these cards out as return. So if you want to send us a card, we will send you one in return no matter where in the world you are. And I will just pop up even if it arrives after Christmas, it doesn't really matter. We will still send you a postcard or some sort of card or something.
We've got some special Chrissy cards.
We are very, very grateful. All right, so who's going to do the first story?
Super grateful. I am so super grateful because
we get nothing from no one, so.
That is true. We get no Christmas cards this year, no nothing, no. So it's up to you guys. All right. Bye, Daisy. Okay, I'll go first. This one's called the Ouija board.
Am I allowed to do sound effects?
No, if you want to.
Okay.
For some background, I have never used a Ouija board, though I have had multiple paranormal experiences in the past. Many of you had seemed to enjoy my experiences, as she's written before, so I figured I would share another. The story takes place about 3 years ago. I was around the age of 18 at the time. I had recently made some new friends. And I seemed to get along very well with them. One friend in particular had a certain love for the dark things of the world, such as ghosts, cults, and demons. He was very fascinated by it and read all about it. For the sake of privacy, we're going to call him Mike. The longer I knew Mike, the closer we grew. He began letting me on all the paranormal experiences and interests he had. I didn't think much of it until he pulled out a mint condition glass Ouija board with a wooden bottom and a wooden planchette.
We don't mind.
At the time, I did not believe in Ouija boards. I had never tried one, so I didn't know if it exactly or actually worked. I thought it was cool and reached out to touch the board when he asked, "You want to try it?"
Do you want to touch my board?
I think he was talking about the Ouija board, but never mind.
Okay.
My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't sure if I wanted to, but curiosity got the best of me, and I said, Okay. My friend Mike and my other friend, we'll call him Sam.
Was Mike's last name Hunt?
No, don't know. Sat around the Ouija board and placed our hands on the planchette. We circled it around and began asking questions. Mike had told us that there were two beings in his home. Both were friendly. One was younger and one was older, and they were both male. When we asked if anyone was there, to our surprise, it was them. While I was a little hesitant, we continued on, asking questions like they were dead or maybe what was the other side like. The planchette moved under our hands slowly but surely to answer each question. I did not believe that it was the spirit moving this planchette, but more so my friend doing the work. Mike insisted he was not doing it and he was not a liar, especially about things like this. For our final question, I asked the being to draw a star on the Ouija board. Mike told me that they didn't do things like that and I couldn't ask that.
Oh, you can ask whatever you like.
Yeah. Before I could reply, the planchette started moving under our fingers. And while I watched it work, I had thought it wasn't drawing a star as it was doing it in an odd way. The more I watched it, the more I realised it was oddly drawn. But this ended up being a star just like I asked. Even Mike looked stunned. After we had finished the session, an idea popped into my head, and one that I wanted more than anything. My other grandfather had passed away about 2 years before this took place. I missed him dearly, and I wanted to speak to him again. While I knew this wasn't something I should have done, emotions got the best of me. We knew it wasn't safe to reach out to somebody that may not reply in his home, so we took the board to a park far away. We sat at a park table at about 2 a.m. and circled the board once again. It's my phone.
I know. Nothing like the Ghostbusters theme going right through the middle of it.
Sam stayed behind, so it was just, and circle the board once again. Sam stayed behind, so it was just me and Mike. I called out, my grandfather asking if he was there. After a few minutes, there was nothing. Then finally, I had gotten a reply, but not the one I wanted. I started by asking what his name was to confirm. I thought it was my grandfather, though the being responding had a hard time spelling his name, almost like it wasn't him. With hesitation, I asked, "Are you my grandfather?" Slowly but surely the planchette made its way to no, and my heart rate rose and a chill went down my spine.
We know that's her husband. He can wait. She's working, Eric. Get off the phone. She's working.
I asked his name, and that I did receive. As
My
this
phone will
event
go
still
next.
makes me uneasy, and I wouldn't, and I wouldn't not like to invite that energy back into my life. I will not repeat the name. After we learned its name, I quickly ended the session and walked away. Mike could see how disappointed I was and that I didn't get to speak with my grandfather. So before we made our way back to the car, we stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and asked if I wanted to try one more time, since we were a good distance away from the previous place we had tried. Reluctantly, I said sure. We sat down and did it again. I called out for him and received nothing. Mike suggested talking about memories of him, so I did. I reminisced about the funny things we used to do and how I missed him so much. After doing so, I asked again if he was there. For some reason, the energy around us seemed more pure. When the planchette went to yes, I asked if it was him and got another yes. I grew happier as I realised that this might be him, and I asked a few questions that he would only know.
Good.
And he answered them. I told him that I missed him, and he told me that he missed me too, and told me not to cry, as I was pretty much bawling my eyes out on the sidewalk. I had a good conversation, and to be quite honest, it really helped. Once we packed up the board, we headed back to his house, and I vowed never to touch it again. Now, I'm not sure if what I had experienced was real or not, but I will say one thing. If it really was him just moving the planchette, then I guess I should thank him, because even if it wasn't my grandfather, feeling like I was speaking to him really helped. But the eerie experience I had gone through on the park table will sit with me forever. It has me a long time. It's probably taken me a long time to bring the story forward, as I buried it deep and I didn't even want to think about it. I thank you for reading the story, and I'm looking for your judgment if you think what I did was wrong. No, that was written by Poison Ivy, 1837.
So 1837, they had computers back then?
I don't think so. That must have been a good year for her.
All right, so what do you think? Did they do the right thing?
Oh, sorry.
Bloody hell.
Sorry.
Put your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? I like the idea that they actually asked some questions that only the grandparents would know or the grandfather would know, and get validating answers. And the problem with some of these things is that if you want it bad enough and you know what the answers are, that you may subconsciously push the planchette to get the answers, because you know it's meant to go to an M. So you're looking at the M, you're going, is it going to move? Is it going to move? Is it going to move? And all of a sudden it'll start sliding because subconsciously you're wanting it to go there. So good old Ouija boards. They get a bit demonised. Now, turn your microphone off this time, Renata.
Yes, I will.
She wandered off. Now, I've got a story for you, but you guys get to choose. Do you want... this one's from the UK, and it's under the heading of Haunted Places, and it's a true story. We've got the slumber party incident. That one is from the USA in Ohio and is Ouija boards and seances. And this is a big mother chucker one, and it's their very own Home Alone adventure. So which one do you think? The haunted place, the slumber party, or the Home Alone? Write it in the comments. Up to you guys. 1, 2, or 3. Oh, the sleepover, says Zena.
Sorry. Oh, let's do the sleepover. What do you think?
Yeah, Home Alone.
Sleepover.
Sleepover, 2 sleepovers, 3 sleepovers. I think we're going with the sleepover at this stage. All right. As I said, this is going to be a cold read, as we like to call it in the everyone's going to sleepover. All right. Sorry, Lisa. So it's cold read in the acting industry, where you get given a script and you've just got to basically go for it. So this was written by Linja Ha.
Linja Ha.
It was written in the 11th of February 2023. This happened a long time ago in my teen years, you know, the years when you're daring and reckless. However, I was the one who knew better during the particular incident. My 2 best friends, we shall call them Dee and Val, wanted to have a slumber party. We had a previous one at Dee's house and had a lot of fun. This time, it was going to be at Val's house. We invited some of our other friends, 8 of us in total. We arrived at Val's house around 6 in the evening. Her mother ordered some pizzas and pop. That's for people in Australia. Pop is like lemonade, Coke and that sort of stuff. Fizzy drink for all of them. We really enjoyed that. From there, we went down to the basement. Where Val's parents, where Val's parents fixed up the rec room to accommodate all of us with mats and sleeping bags.
Oh, bless.
Oh, I like this.
Oh.
While down there, one of the gals told us about a trick of sorts that we could experiment with. Oh, teenagers experimenting.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? One of you lays down on the floor and the others gather around with one person at the head and feet. The person at the head leads... Oh, hang on, the person at the head leads it off with, "This is so-and-so. She is dead," and everyone around them says the same thing. Then the lead person says, "She is light as a feather, stiff as a board."
Oh.
I've played this game.
Oh.
And around to each person again. The last thing the lead says, if she will rise and float like a feather. At this point, we all have 2 fingers of both of our hands under the person. We began to lift in unison. Guess what? It worked. So that was where you basically put 2 fingers underneath them like that, and you go, light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board, and you try to lift them. All right. Val was the one on a sleeping bag that we lifted. The floor was too dirty, so we laid on a sleeping bag. She actually did float beyond our grasp and rise to the ceiling until her nose touched it. They were better at it than I was. We were freaking out. She opened her eyes and screamed. We all panicked and withdrew our hands, shouting, "Catch her, catch her." However, nobody was holding her, and she fell from ceiling height. Wham! Fortunately, she landed on the sleeping bag with no injuries other than just being shook up. We were very intrigued by this. Actually, we were mystified. About then, Val and Dee, they are the main protagonists here, got the bright idea to have a Ouija board session. Val asked the girl that lived right next door to her to go home and fetch her board. Go fetch the board.
Fetch the board.
Apparently this girl had one. About this time, I gave them all a great big nope. Not me. I told my friend Dee about the session my sister and cousins had had a couple of years before, and she was extremely intrigued by my account of what happened. I told her that I think they are dangerous and not a toy to be played with. They called me chicken. I told them, that's right. I'm a chicken that knows better. That's always the way to deal with bullies. If they call your names and go, Yeah, I'm fat and ugly. So? They've got nothing to come back at you with. It's great. I'm going home, but what I am warning you is that you'll regret messing with that thing. And I bid them a good night. I gave my mum a lame duck excuse for coming home from the party. I told her that the pizza gave me an upset stomach. Unfortunately, I had to endure a spoonful of Pepto-Bismol. Yuck, I went to bed. The next day, there was a knock at my door. It was Dee, looking very ashen and wide awake. She asked me to step outside so we could talk. While outside, she looked at me, serious as a heart attack, and told me what happened after I left. She apologised for calling me chicken and told me that I was absolutely right about warning them not to mess with that thing. They were asking it stupid questions like who is going to marry who and that kind of girl stuff. And then they asked questions that they shouldn't have. They began receiving knocks in responses to their questions.
Ooh.
Right away, Val thought it was her older brother, but he was in the living room with the rest of the family watching TV. When she went upstairs to query him, when she went upstairs to query him, they continued even more intrigued than ever. However, they started getting unnerving answers and hearing strange noises. Maybe it was the pizza and they all needed the Pepto-Bismol. I am only going by what Dee told me. They got quite scared and quit the session. They all climbed into their, they say sacks here. I'm going to call it a sleeping bag. It sounds so much better.
A sack.
That is when things started that they couldn't explain. Dee told me that it got incredibly cold down there. Well, it is down in the basement. It's sort of hot air rises, cold sinks. And they heard more knocking. They then began to hear something shuffling about them in a steady gait, but they didn't see anything. A couple of the girls yelped after being poked by unseen fingers. They were so scared that they began making a commotion that alarmed her mother to the point of running down to the basement to find out what was going on. When they told her mum that what she did, she really read Val and the others a riot act. She told them that those things are not toys and she confirmed that they are dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. She told the girl that brought it to get it out of her house or she'd take a sledgehammer to it. Ooh, sounds like my mother. The girl ran home and disposed of it. She was truly frightened. I didn't get much sleep that night. Dee told me that Val would be coming by also to apologise to me because I was right to caution them. Matter of fact, they all apologised to me. Quite humbly, I might add. I didn't hold it against them. It's a shame that they had to get so terrified to realise I was merely giving them good advice. I told them I was trying to give them the benefit of my experience and how it scared the crap out of me, my sister and my cousins. They listened to me a wee bit more after that. I became the knowledgeable sage to them where the paranormal was concerned. However, I am still learning things to this day. I think we all are. I never was tacky enough to say, I told you so. I would have. Because I figured that they felt bad enough, not to mention scared enough. Sometimes teenage girls can be as bad as teenage boys when it comes to doing things without considering the consequences. This occurrence could have been a lot worse, but I'm very glad that it wasn't for my friend's sake.
And see, this is where the Ouija board gets its reputation from, all of these sorts of stories. Yeah.
Ali, as I said, I actually did this when I was in high school. And we had one of our friends that was lying down on the ground, and she was quite thin, very light, and there was sort of like, I think 8 of us, and we all did the whole light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather and stiff as a board. And I don't know if it was just because there was that many of us that were able to lift her, but she did come up off the ground, and I was only a teenager. Don't know. And then they started doing this other thing, which was really bad, where they would make people faint because they thought that was fun.
Oh.
It's where they would they'd sort of do a big breath, and then someone would get behind them and give them a bear hug around their ribs, and they had to hold their breath, and they'd pass out.
Oh, that's
I left at that stage, especially when one of them had a fit.
wow.
Kids do crazy things, and kids' imaginations are a bit wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I was the brother, I would have been giving them hell. I would have been doing all sorts of things to scare the bejesus out of them. There's actually a really good clip somewhere. I'll see if I can quickly find it. Is it turning... I'll just see if I can find it. It was really quite funny. It was on YouTube, I think, or there it is. I've got it. All right. I'll share it in a second. I've just got to get that back to here, and I've got to turn the volume on. And this is how things can start. And I'm sure Patrick could tell you a story about this as well. I've just got to get back over to here. I'm going to share. Present, share screen. Where was it? I think that was it there. No, that's channel content. Window maybe? No. Is that it? Oh yeah, it's on the Facebook page. Sorry. I like talking to myself because nobody else talks to me. All right, share. And now I'm just going to make sure it's in the thing here, add to stage. I will make it go full picture. And it says my sister has friends over and they're playing with a Ouija board. And this is what happens. So for them, that was going to be a real thing that happened. They're going to now report that they had the lights flickering on and off during a Ouija board session. I love hearing the screaming in the background. That just cracks me up. Did you all hear that? We were switching it off and you can hear the screaming, the girls screaming in the background. All right.
Okay, my turn.
Oh, yeah, they did have that in the craft, I think. Yeah.
Got the Ouija board thing.
No, the light as a feather.
Oh,
yes,
board. Yes, yeah. Yep. All right, so this is a story from Reddit. This is a story written on Reddit about some people who were reading a story on Reddit.
What?
So, all right. So starting off this story, you probably need some background info. Me and some friends were out camping for some sort of a group thing. We were out for 3 nights, and each night something freaky happened, and even some things happened during the day. So we were out by a fire for the first night, and everyone was wide awake and ready to chill for the long weekend. So we decided to tell ghost stories because we're dumb. Keeping in mind it's about 9:30, 10 p.m. currently. We start telling our own ghost stories, but after a while they get boring and we go onto Reddit for some ghost stories instead. We read part of one, but it wasn't scary, so we stopped. A bit like this one. And this is the point where I got up and was like, hey, look at the thing in the bushes over there. Like you would do that. Of course, I was joking. But then people started seeing things moving.
Oh.
And even people who are very down to earth, not just me, because I have a vivid imagination, and we start hearing noises. Pretty freaked out because it's dark and spooky, we decide to go to bed quickly. But all throughout the night, I hear footsteps and howling. I think the howling was from the young group of kids camping next to us, but still, it added to the atmosphere. The wind was blowing strongly that night, and it was cold, and no one got much sleep. On the second night, it was pretty much the same story as the first. first, just footsteps and howling and occasionally seeing things move in the darkness. Nothing new happened, but people were just freaked out and worried about things. Now, we move on to the third night, which is the freakiest of them all. It starts off the same as the last two, with people joking about the man in the bushes. And then, of course, people start seeing things and panicking. By now, it's about 5 minutes past 10, and we start getting ready for bed. All the girls get up and go to the toilet, and it's just me, my friend Spencer, and my half-friend Brandon. How do you have a half-friend?
They only brought the torso.
Brandon gets up to supposedly go to the toilet,
Really,
but both
Dad?
me and Spencer assume he's going to prank the girls. So the girls come out of the toilet when Brandon is still there, and there was the word help written in big letters on one of the poles, or so I was told. The girls all freak out and say that it's Brandon and walk back to the camp, where one of the girls is really freaked out and starts wanting to go home and wishing they had never come to the camp. Both me and Spencer were thinking it was Brandon, but he kept denying it profusely, which was odd because he always admitted after he had pulled a prank. But this time he kept denying it, even to the adults in the camp. This causes Spencer to start thinking Brandon wasn't lying, and then he started freaking out a bit. I have bad anxiety and paranoia and a very vivid imagination, but I always put everything down to science and logic. I'm the sort of person that always has an explanation for everything, and I start saying, if you were being chased or in danger, would you have the time to write help on a pole? Of course, people listen, but they all freak out. Then one of the girls offers to show me the help sign and why they thought it was Brandon. But when we get there, the help sign is completely gone. I had absolutely no explanation for this, and I started to freak out myself. And to calm myself down, I made up a lie. Charcoal gets soaked into the wood after a certain period of time, even though I knew it was a blatant lie, I said. It was only like 5 minutes later when I went to have a look. We all go to bed, and surprisingly, I slept well. This is now the last day we are in camp, and we start packing up. We are told to clean the toilets. Ew. And this is where all the relatively creepy things have been happening. We start sweeping and cleaning out the toilet block, but every cubicle felt like something was in it, and I constantly felt like I was being watched. As we swept, someone threw gum nuts, yes, we're in Australia, through the bars. So I go out to yell at the person, but there is no one there.
It's those drop bears.
This happens a few times until I'm outside and one of my friends yells out that they saw a gum nut get thrown through the window. And I'm only seconds away from the edge, so I sprint around, and again, nothing is there. For reference, the window, it wasn't really a window, it was some diagonal bars at the top, was only about 20 centimetres tall, and the nearest gum tree is across the road. This freaks me out, and I go back inside to finish sweeping. My friend had left to go talk to the girls, so I was alone in the bathroom, and when I turned the corner, I saw a distinct shadow figure standing in the corner before walking into one of the cubicles and disappearing. It was about my height, 5'8", and it had a long scruffy hair and a blank expression on its face. It walked with a long gait and disappeared as soon as I looked in that cubicle. I left the toilet quickly, but the next time I walked in with my friend Spencer, the cubicle that the shadow man walked into, its toilet was flushing. Me and Spencer sprinted out of there
tidy.
and did not go back in for the rest of the camp. We left later that day.
It's the yowie that uses the shitter.
It's a yowie.
Well, it's good to hear an Australian one.
See what happens when you start telling stories and everybody starts to freak out and they start to believe that they're also seeing things.
Mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria. Wow. You got another story?
Oh, I've got lots of stories. You'll come visit Vancouver. Lunch will be... Oh, Dominic, I actually saw cheap fares to Canada the other day, and I said, do you want to go to Canada? And we went, yeah. We just got to earn some more money. Shadow men who flush.
I know. But do you think that it was a a spirit, or could it have just been a real person?
Well, it sounds like it's a camping area and there's toilets there. So there would possibly be other people. They said there was other kids there as well that may have been screaming during the night.
It may have just been that they all just got so scared that they were jumpy at everything.
Yeah. I don't know which one to do. The Home Alone. The Home Alone is very long. And as I said, I haven't checked it. Should we risk Home Alone?
Go for it.
How long you got? Got 20 minutes. All right, well, let's hope it's a good one. When I was young, I had my own Home Alone adventure, but mine was not funny. When I was a kid, well, a teenager, I frequently spent my Saturday nights babysitting my siblings. As the eldest of three, I assumed this responsibility with no pay nor thanks to speak of.
Sad.
Get that violin out.
Sad.
It was simply expected of me. Only just one of my contributions to the family. Oh, my God. I babysat so frequently because, well, my parents needed it. They'd had marriage problems in the past and their counsellor told them that they should go on a weekly date. Roman, revive the magic. Roman, rekindle the flame. Did I mention we celebrated 36 years of our wedding anniversary yesterday?
Yesterday, you did.
Yeah.
And you weren't well.
I wasn't.
No.
So I didn't go out. Nothing happened. All right. So, yeah, rekindle the flame, all that good stuff. Yeah, it sucked to be robbed of a weekend evening, but it wasn't much of a burden. My parents were happier than they'd been in ages, and they both seemed genuinely excited about date night each week. I would rather have been doing other things, of course, but I'd seen my aunt and uncle go through a nasty divorce a few years back, and I desperately wanted my parents to stick together. And so it was on that night, December 3rd.
We're not on December 3rd.
No, but my wedding anniversary was December 5th. In the year 2006, I stood at the open door of my secluded Colorado home, waving goodbye as my parents drove off down the driveway, the icy driveway. Drive safe, I called out, steam pouring from my mouth. It gets cold in Colorado. I don't know. Oh, it's December too. That's winter. I don't know if they heard me or not, wrapping my arms around my torso in response to the wintry mountain air. I entertained myself for a few brief moments by exhaling forcefully and watching my breath float away into nothing. And there was truly nothing around me, not a car or a creature in sight. It wasn't long before I grew bored and turned back into the warm house, nose tingling from the chill. Georgie and Kate were eating their dinner at the kitchen table. As I watched them, I couldn't help feeling like an only child. Georgie, 3 years my junior, was severely autistic and not talkative. He only spoke when he really needed something or wanted something, and only then in the simplest of words. Milk and sandwich was code for peanut butter and jelly with the crust off, which he presently was devouring. Katie, meanwhile, was still a baby, just shy of 2. The 9-year gap between them is glaring. But to this day, my parents swear to me that Kate wasn't an accident, kind of like back in high school when I swore to them I had no idea how those magazines got under my mattress. But I digress. The kids finished dinner and I set them up with their entertainment for the night. Georgie in his room with the PlayStation 2, which was a hot commodity in those days, and Kate in her crib in front of Sesame Street. Myself, I ignited the basement fireplace, dimmed the overheads, and curled up with a book by the light of our Christmas tree. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Colorado, December, snow. Oh, God, that was a nice house. Not a day goes by that I don't miss it. That's them saying that, not me. I read in perfect contentment for nearly an hour. Night had fallen by then, and the room had become toasty. I was beginning to doze off when I heard Georgie's heavy footfalls descend the staircase. I sat upright and looked at him expectantly as he waddled into the room. "No more knocking," he said, brow furrowed in annoyance. I shook my head and said, I'm not knocking. I said, is someone at the door? Georgie just stared at me blankly. Georgie, I said more clearly this time, did somebody knock at the door? No more knocking, he responded. Knocking on window. Knocking on window? I stood up, now wide awake. Georgie, is somebody knocking on your window? No more, he replied simply. I stood in silence for a moment, unsure of what I should do. It was probably just one of my friends playing a prank, I thought, but being alone in a house that makes you a little jumpy, my mind started to race through the situation. I was a 13-year-old boy in a nice house on the hilly outskirts of a Colorado mountain town. The streets were engulfed in trees and there were no homes within a quarter of a mile of my own. Our road saw next to no traffic and the police station was a good 15 minutes away. It was probably my friends, I thought, but what if it wasn't? Follow me, I said, Georgie. Hand trembling slightly, I turned the knob and glanced up the staircase. It was dark up there. The only light came from Kate's room. Kate! I sprinted up the stairs to her room where she remained happily perched in her crib, squawking with delight as Elmo fiddled with his crayons. I breathed a sigh of relief, but still my heart thumped in my chest. This is silly. I told myself, be a man.
At 13, be a man.
I made my way down the hall to Georgie's room and stood tentatively at its door. Taking a deep breath, I gently pushed the door ajar, reaching for the light switch and thinking better of it. If this was the worst case scenario, then I didn't want our mystery intruder to know where in the house I was. Good thinking, huh? The only light in the room came from the Star Wars Battlefront's game pause screen. I listened for a moment, but heard nothing. I began to suspect that Georgie had simply imagined the knocking. Somewhat exasperatedly, I moved to the window and flicked up a blind to reveal nothing. Just a landscape of freshly fallen snow backed by a quiet, lonely road. I watched the peaceful night, relieved, as the large flakes fell softly to the ground, my eyes trailing an individual fractal all the way to the footprints just below the window frame. At first, I did not comprehend them. I just stared, transfixed at the deep imprints in the snow. Shoes. A man's shoes. None of my friends wore that size. I was sure of it. I traced them backwards from the window to the sidewalk, from whence this intruder had evidently come. But where did they lead? It was a bright night and the moon shone proudly between the clouds. My eyes followed the steps across the yard front. But once they passed behind the giant pine, they disappeared. My heart leapt to my throat. Whoever had walked behind that tree was still there. In panic, I quickly backed away from the window. Georgie, sensing my fear, began to whimper. No, shh, I muttered, desperate to keep him quiet. I flicked the television off and led Georgie out of the room. I quickly pulled Kate from her crib, powered her TV down as well, and carried her down the stairs in the blackness. Can't see, Georgie said, and Kate began to cry. I shushed her worriedly and hurried down the stairs. Once in the basement den, I unplugged this Christmas tree so that the only light in the room came from the embers of the dying fire. I sat Georgie down on the couch and settled Kate in my arms. Sit right here, I directly said, staring to his eyes. Don't move. Do you understand? Don't move. I need to call the police. I would have called my parents, but this was 10 years ago and they didn't have cell phones. So I took the stairs quickly and quietly, tiptoeing to the phone hanging from the wall of our living room. I picked up the phone and dialed 911, but I heard nothing. Silence. I slammed it on the receiver and picked it up again. Again, nothing. I think it was around this point that I started to cry. I couldn't help it. I was scared. I tried to calm myself down, telling myself that the storm had killed the phone line. But there wasn't much of a storm. The snow was steady, sure, but there wasn't even a breeze. Certainly nothing that could have disabled our phone. Tentatively, I walked into Kate's room and peeked out the window. My first glance was towards the tree, of course, where the footprints had stopped. But now they continued. Sometime while I was herding my siblings downstairs, whoever was behind the tree had moved. I followed the footsteps across my frozen front yard to a man standing near the driveway. He was looking right at me. My breath stopped. I was frozen in place. This was not one of my friends. I had never seen this man before, but he was looking at me with an eerie blankness. He was wearing a black turtleneck and black slacks, a lone dark spot on a blanket of purest white. My eyes never left him, and he's never left me. We stood still, silently staring for what seemed like an eternity. My heart thrummed in my chest and I felt nauseous. For the first time, gazing into the man's eyes from afar, I began to consider the possibility of my death. I thought of my dad's brother who was killed in an accident at age 11, forever 11, never growing up, frozen in time in the memories of all that knew him as a soul of eternal youth. At this, the tears flowed freely once more. "Please don't hurt us," I begged in a sobbing whisper. I knew he could not hear me, but I couldn't help myself. Finally, he broke eye contact with me, and I looked towards the heavens, toward the gently falling snow. He was saying something, but what I couldn't hear. I stared, transfixed, as he pulled a handful of dark powder from his pocket, then still gazing upwards, still muttering to himself, he flung the stuff at his feet. I desperately wanted to run to get my siblings, but I thought that it would lead the man, but I thought that to let this man out of my sight would be unconscionably foolish. No, better to keep him in eyesight. The house was still locked. I had the upper hand, I felt. Besides, I could not bring myself to look away from the strange ritual unfolding before me. The man had removed his sweater and flung it carelessly to the ground behind him. He was no longer staring skyward, but his lips continued to move. I trained my eyes intently upon his mouth, trying with no success to read the words, when I saw something glint in the moonlight. It was a knife, a long, callous blade, which he had removed from his other pocket. It bore dark stains already. From what? I covered my mouth to hush a scream as the man, still muttering himself, ran the edge of the blade along his pale, distended stomach.
Oh!
A thin red line appeared along his abdomen, and blood of the deepest shade began to dribble from the wound. The streams trickled down his belly and fell ungracefully upon the black powder at his feet. At this, the man stared skywards once more, face contorted in a gruesome smile. He was sobbing uncontrollably, and mucus ran freely from his nostrils. But he looked happy, beyond happy, elated. My stomach churned in revulsion. This man was in ecstasy. I watched, almost entranced by this bizarre unfolding, when the man's face suddenly changed. He looked directly at me once more, and his eyes appeared unhinged. Still clutching the knife, he began to sprint directly at my window. I took one look at the weapon this man brandished and instinctively fled the room. I slammed the door shut behind me and was halfway down the stairs when I heard the window shatter. The man screamed loudly in pain as I reached the basement. I locked the door behind me and ran to Georgie and Kate. "No more screaming," Georgie pleaded. No more screaming," I agreed in hushed tones, stroking his hair in an effort to calm him down. Kate, meanwhile, seemed as happy as a clam. I strained, listening intently. Is he inside the house? I still clung to the naive hope that he had injured himself on the glass and had retreated, or perhaps he had been weakened by his self-inflicted wound. Finally, I heard it. The subtle but unmistakable sounds of footsteps upstairs. He was indeed inside the house, and by the sound of it, was trying to be quiet. You right? Do you need a break?
No, it's fine.
Okay. I silently guided Georgie and Kate to a storage closet and closed the door behind us, manipulating the handle to make as little noise as possible. We stayed there for about 5 minutes, listening to the ceiling creak threateningly above us. Then I realised, I don't know why it took me so long, that we were not trapped. We still had a way out. I saw in my mind's eye a window well in the bathroom down the hall, the only access our basement had to the outside world. Almost as if on cue, a frustrated scream echoed from above, followed by a tremendous crash. He had pulled something to the ground, perhaps the entertainment stand or maybe the hutch. "He's here," the man shrieked hysterically. "How dare you hide from him?" To this day, I don't know who he was talking about, but it was at that moment, the moment I heard him begin to descend the stairs, that I made my move. Holding Kate in one arm and guiding Georgie with the other, we began our flight down the hallway. As we reached the bathroom, I stared fixedly at the window near the ceiling. It would be a tight fit, but we could make it. I flung the window open, stood on the toilet and placed Kate gently on the shallow window well. Then I stepped off and told Georgie to get on. "Yucky, gross, no standing on toilet," he said, looking embarrassed. I heard the man fumble with the locked handle at the base of the stairs. Time was running out. I'm not proud of what I did next, but it was the only way I could think of to get Georgie to cooperate. I smacked my brother roughly across the face and grabbed him by the shirt with both hands. "Georgie, get on the fucking toilet," I snarled at him. The first time I had ever said that word, he began to wail in pain and surprise. But he did step onto the toilet all the same. "Climb out the window," I directed in a harsh tone as he grabbed the ledge. I used all the strength I could muster to help push him out. Once he almost slipped back down, almost, but he was stronger than I thought he was and managed to pull himself back up. With both of my siblings safely in the window well, I climbed on the toilet one last time and gripped the edge of the windowsill. As I clambered out myself, I heard a raucous crash. The man had broken down the basement door. With one last hoist, I pulled my legs up through the window and shut it quietly behind me. As I helped my siblings out of the well, I heard one last anguished shout from the man, muffled through the pane of glass. "Why are you hiding from him?" "Cole!" screamed Georgie as I led him barefoot through the snowy grass. In panic, I shushed him. It was no use. He and Kate were both crying quite loudly by this point. My only hope was to get them as far away from the house as possible. I heard a distant crash from inside the house and I quickened our pace. Feet numb, I sprinted through the yard to the sidewalk and practically had to drag Georgie onto it. "Bathroom light on," he said pleadingly. He was obsessive about turning off lights and electronics before leaving. And he was correct. We had left the bathroom light on in our haste. I ignored him and rushed us down the frozen pavement, stepping on sharp rocks and sticks and not even comprehending it. Adrenaline surged through our veins. I didn't know what we were headed towards. All I knew is that we were headed away from. The snow was falling much harder by this point. I could already see it collecting in a pile on Kate's head. Her nose was beet red and dripping with snot. I needed to get her inside. But where? I looked ahead and saw a light off in the distance. The Garland's house. I said maybe a grand total of 6 words to Mr. and Mrs. Garland my entire life, but this was our one option. It was their house that we would seek refuge. My house was now around the corner and out of sight, but I did not let up the pace until Georgie tripped on something and landed in a dark puddle. "Hey!" he screamed indignantly. Looking back at his stumbling block in the glow of the distant street light, I could see Georgie had fallen into blood. A dead man lay, face up, eyes open on the sidewalk. Snow had fallen on most of him, and he'd been mostly invisible until Georgie's feet had connected with his midsection. I remembered the dark stain I had seen on the intruder's knife. "Come on," I pled, wrenching my eyes away from the grisly scene as I pulled Georgie to his feet. We ran for another 60 seconds, maybe, and finally reached the Garlands' front door. The window in their parlour was open and a fire was roaring. Mr. and Mrs. Garland sat drinking tea in cosy armchairs. I pounded ferociously on their door and they answered, utter bewilderment stamped on their faces. I handed Kate to Mrs. Garland and collapsed into tears. The police arrived at my home 15 minutes later and apprehended the man, unconscious, lying in a crumpled heap on the floor in our basement bathroom. They discovered him with a fractured skull, many deep lacerations from the window of Kate's room, and intestines partially protruding from the wound in his gut. He had slipped in his attempt to climb where we had climbed, hit his head, and knocked himself out. Apparently, he confessed under questioning that he was a member of a strange cult, a cult which, as far as anyone can tell, does not even exist. He claimed to have been taking part in a ritual which required the sacrifice of a pure soul, and my autistic brother had been his target that night. My parents have not shared with me all the details of what happened after that night, but as far as I know, our intruder is currently rotting in a cell. The man he killed, the man laying on the sidewalk, was a friend of my father who'd lived 2 streets over. He had called his wife on his cell phone not long before he died, informing her of a suspicious man dressed in black stalking our neighbourhood. My parents arrived home from their date to find police swarmed around the block and their home a crime scene. My father relocated at work and we had moved across the Rockies to Salt Lake City just 2 weeks later. Kate is now a bratty middle schooler, and as far as I'm concerned, she's perfect. Georgie, now 21, hasn't changed a bit, but he loses his mind if someone knocks on a window. As for me, I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie now. I climb mountains with narrow trails and steep ridges. I go cave diving in places where you shouldn't. All, I think, in an attempt to recreate the fearful intensity of that one snowy night long ago. But it never works. The closest I come is when I'm alone in my room in the dead of night. Then, and then alone, is when the real fear sets in.
Whoa. That was a marathon, Ed.
I know, right? I thought I was going to fit in the middle of it.
A marathon.
I wasn't expecting it to go quite as long as that, but I did warn you all, it was a long one.
All of these beautiful people have stayed on for the whole time.
All 19 of them, wow.
That's amazing, amazing.
Oh.
I think we need to finish off on that one.
We do. It is an hour.
It's an hour.
So do you like our spooky stories? Do you think that's a good thing? I enjoyed it. I like reading stories. I have fun reading stories. Would it be true, though? It would be interesting.
Yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, we're going to finish up. We've shared our day 6. Are we on?
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow it will be Tarot Thursday, so it will be the normal time, 8:30 to 9:30, with your tarot questions, and we will see you then.
Yep. You can always go back and listen to the rest of that story if you missed it and came in late. But thank you for being here. Thanks for joining in. Don't forget, once you leave this feed, go back in and leave some emojis or hearts or something like that. I've got the hiccups there. Oh, hi, Donnie. We're going now. Bye, everyone.